They called it the family of peace. But peace never lasts long in the world of men who live by the gun. In the early 90s, New York whispered about a war that didn't pit rival mobs, it pitted brothers. The Colombo family, one of the 5 families of New York, had turned its own name into a battlefield. Steam curled from sewer grates as soldiers chose sides, the loyalists under Carmine Persico, and the rebels led by Victor Orena, a man once trusted to keep the throne warm. What began as an appointment became an ambition. What began as respect became revenge. "We're not enemies," Orena said once, lighting a cigarette. "Then stop acting like a king," came the reply from Persico's corner. That night, the streets fell silent, as if the city already knew blood would follow. The war didn't start with bullets. It started with pride, and pride never misses its target. But before the first shot was fired in Brooklyn, a quiet decision in prison sealed everyone's fate. Long before the headlines screamed Colombo family civil war, there was only loyalty, the kind built over pasta dinners, whispered codes, and silent handshakes. Carmine the Snake Persico came from Brooklyn's tough streets, a man who rose from teenage hoodlum to boss through sheer cunning. Even his enemies admitted, Persico could smile while ordering your funeral. From his prison cell, he ruled with invisible strings, expecting absolute obedience. Victor Orena, on the other hand, wasn't born to lead, he was chosen. A quiet soldier from the old school, he valued family, church, and the illusion of peace. Persico made him acting boss while he served time, a decision that would later divide the underworld. In the beginning, both men respected each other. They shared dinners, laughter, even godfathered each other's children. But beneath that friendship was a ticking clock, 2 men born for power, each unable to share it. "You're like a son to me," Persico once told Orena. "Then why do I feel like a prisoner?" Orena replied softly. "Every empire starts with trust and ends with betrayal." By 1991, Persico's word from behind bars reached Brooklyn, and it carried a command Orena couldn't ignore. It started quietly, like all mob wars do. A few missing envelopes. A delayed tribute. A driver switching sides. Then whispers spread through Brooklyn cafes, Orena's had enough. By spring 1991, tension hung heavier than the summer air. Orena's men, based out of Howard Beach and Long Island, began meeting without permission. They said Persico's son, Little Al, was pulling strings from prison to keep the family his father's dynasty. Orena wanted independence, a chance to lead without being anyone's puppet. At first, it was just talk. Then came the first ambush. Outside a bagel shop in Bensonhurst, shots tore through the morning calm. A loyalist soldier fell face-first into the curb, coffee still steaming beside him. The war had found its first victim. "That wasn't business," one old capo muttered. "That was a message." Within days, safe houses were raided, cars tailed, and phones bugged. The FBI hadn't seen this kind of intra-family bloodletting since Castellano. Both factions prayed for peace, but deep down they knew peace was dead. And while Persico ruled from a cell, Orena made a move that would change the balance forever. By summer of '91, the Colombo family was split clean down the middle. On one side, the Persico loyalists, older men who still whispered Carmine's name like a prayer. On the other, the Orena faction, younger, restless soldiers who believed the throne should belong to the man on the street, not the man in a cell. Brooklyn became a chessboard. Every diner booth, every payphone, every gas station had ears. Allies became liabilities, friendships turned to surveillance. Even the Gambinos and Genovese kept their distance, no one wanted to get caught between a family killing itself. Orena's headquarters in Queens buzzed with quiet confidence. He was meeting capos, promising order, business, and respect, the 3 things every mobster craves. Across the river, Persico's loyalists plotted retaliation, whispering through couriers and coded letters smuggled from Marion Federal Penitentiary. "He thinks the crown's up for grabs," Persico said through his lawyer. "Then let's remind him who forged it." But the deeper Orena's roots spread, the more the streets began to favor him. For a moment, it looked like he might actually win. Until one Sunday morning, a phone call from Brooklyn turned confidence into chaos. The call came just after dawn, a warning cloaked as a favor. "Vic," the voice said, "they're coming for you. Today." Orena hung up, eyes fixed on the window blinds as sunlight cut across the room. He didn't believe it, not at first. But by noon, he saw the cars circling his block in Howard Beach, the same ones that used to carry Persico's men. That day, Carmine Persico declared his quiet verdict from prison: Orena was no longer acting boss. He was a traitor. And in this life, there's only one punishment for treason. As Orena stepped into his Lincoln, he saw the glint, the reflection of a gun barrel from across the street. The shots came fast, shredding the air. His driver slammed the gas, bullets punching through the windshield. Orena ducked low, blood spraying across the dashboard. He survived, barely. His pride didn't. "You only get one chance to kill a king," he told his men later. They missed. That failed hit made headlines. And overnight, Brooklyn turned into a war zone. By the end of that week, the FBI wasn't chasing one mob family, it was chasing two Colombos locked in a death spiral. By mid-1992, New York had turned into a pressure cooker. Bullets weren't the only things flying, rumors were too. Bars, delis, and car lots whispered of a family eating itself alive. Every night, another man vanished. Some were found in their cars, others were never found at all. The FBI's organized crime task force could hardly keep up. Wiretaps crackled with half-heard orders, coded warnings, and silences that said more than words. One agent called it a civil war with weekly funerals. Orena's crew moved through Queens like ghosts, while Persico's loyalists prowled Brooklyn, each hunting the other under the same flag. Even the streets grew weary. Business dried up, gamblers stayed home, and shop owners locked their doors before sunset. The war was costing everyone money, soldiers, and sanity. "We used to protect this city," an old soldier muttered. "Now we're protecting ourselves from each other." For the first time, both sides felt what they'd never admit: fear. Not of bullets, but of extinction. And just when both factions seemed ready to burn out, one late-night betrayal flipped the board again, this time, from inside Orena's own camp. It happened on a humid July night. Orena sat in his Queens safe house, surrounded by men he trusted, or thought he did. The television hummed softly in the background, showing the evening news about the Colombo blood war. None of them spoke. They didn't need to. Everyone knew too much had been lost. Then came the whisper. A cousin of one of Orena's captains had flipped, feeding intel to Persico's loyalists and the FBI. Within hours, Orena's locations, vehicles, and meeting spots were compromised. The men around him weren't guards anymore, they were targets in a slow-moving trap. When the first raid hit, it wasn't Persico's shooters, it was federal agents. Doors splintered. Men hit the floor. The world Orena built collapsed under boots and badges. "You think you're better than Persico," an agent sneered as he cuffed him. Orena looked up, blood on his lip. "No," he said quietly. "Just freer, for a while." That night marked the end of illusions. The streets went silent. Both leaders were behind bars, the city finally got its peace, but it came soaked in betrayal. And as the smoke cleared, the real question lingered: what was left of the Colombo family now? The war that began over power ended in ashes. By late 1992, 20 men were dead, dozens imprisoned, and what once was the proud Colombo family had become a ghost of itself. The rackets, construction, trucking, loans, all frozen. Soldiers disappeared into witness protection, captains fled to Florida, and street collectors took honest jobs just to survive. From their separate cells, Carmine Persico and Vic Orena ruled nothing but memories. Letters smuggled through lawyers turned into blame games, each claiming he was the true guardian of the family's honor. But the honor was gone. What remained was loss. The other New York families watched with quiet satisfaction. The Gambinos expanded, the Genovese swallowed territory, and the Colombos became a cautionary tale whispered in dimly lit backrooms. They fought for the name, an old soldier said. And the name buried them both. The FBI, for once, didn't have to dismantle a family, the family did it themselves. What pride began, prison ended. But history has a cruel sense of humor, even behind bars, both men still believed they'd won. Years passed, but the wounds never healed. Inside his cell, Carmine Persico aged like iron left in the rain, rusted but unbent. He spent over 3 decades behind bars, still signing his letters, boss of the Colombo family. To the end, he believed loyalty was worth the blood it cost. Victor Orena, locked away in another facility, lived in quieter denial. He claimed he never betrayed Persico, that he only wanted peace, stability, and dignity for the men still risking their lives on the street. His followers called him the rightful heir. In truth, both men became prisoners of their own pride. The new generation of gangsters avoided the Colombo name, it carried a curse. The family of peace was gone, replaced by ghosts and empty rackets. Yet in Brooklyn's bars, the old-timers still argued about who was right. Orena had vision, one would say. Persico had loyalty, another replied. Then came the silence, because everyone knew both lost. Their story became legend, not for victory, but for the warning it carried. And with time, that warning turned into wisdom, the kind only written in blood and regret. Time washed away the gun smoke, but not the lesson. The Colombo War wasn't about business, betrayal, or bullets, it was about ego. 2 men who once shared meals, dreams, and respect destroyed everything they built because neither could bow. In prison, Persico died holding onto his title. Orena lived long enough to see his empire fade into dust, his soldiers gone, his name remembered only in documentaries and whispers. Each thought he had won, yet both were buried under the same truth: in the mob, no one really wins. The streets they once ruled now host cafes and condos. But if you stand there late at night, locals say you can still feel it, that strange chill of loyalty turned to hate. He killed for loyalty, and died for it too. They ruled the city, one reporter wrote, but never owned a quiet night's sleep. One died a legend. The other, a ghost. Both prove that in this world, winning a war means losing everything else. If you felt this story, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more Mafia story explained fast, where every empire leaves a shadow.